Okay, I've been sent more questions about Buddhism, and I'm going to answer some of those questions about Buddhism in a series of videos that we're going to record tomorrow. But I couldn't quite resist one question that was sent me by a sixth former today. I think Matt Kite, maybe. Anyway, it was sent via his teacher, Mr. McCain, and it was about karma. The language was: are good actions good because they accrue good karma, or do they accrue good karma because they're good? And I thought this was quite a perceptive and rather interesting question, but also one that seems to derive from the idea that there must be some standard of morality, perhaps outside karma. And actually, you might take a view that in Buddhism, the process by which certain actions lead to certain kinds of results, which we for shorthand call karma, although as people often point out, literally the word karma is the word for action, so it's karmic consequence, I guess, is what happens in Buddhism is that it's a descriptive function initially for many. Certain kinds of actions seem to lead to certain kinds of results. So if you carry out certain kinds of actions, like punching kittens, that'll lead to bad results, like being born in a lowly state, or bad things happening to you. If you do nice things, like rescuing kittens from evil people that punch them, that will lead to positive rebirths or positive things. So whether they're good because they accrue good karma, or whether they accrue good karma because they're good, is almost like saying it's like the same thing. We describe the kind of actions that lead to certain kinds of results, and we choose to call them good. There isn't, in a sense, a separate judge, and there isn't, in a sense, a separate existence of morality, other than an existence of morality in terms of it being part of the natural results of things. As a result of thinking about this question, I got my trusty Pali English dictionary out, and was reading through the very long entry on karma. But the bit that struck me, which is page 193 of the old-fashioned Pali English dictionary, now of course entirely online, and it's just talking about the idea of as the cause, so the result. The idea somehow that if you do certain actions that have certain results is kind of integral to many formations of Buddhism. So much so that I think how Buddhism often views morality through this idea of kusala or akusala, which some people like good or not good. I quite like the translation of that term as skillful or unskillful. So a good life is a skillful life, where you don't do things that are going to cause suffering to other people or bring suffering on yourself. A well-lived life seems to me at least to articulate something rather powerful about the Buddhist message, that a life where you go around hurting other people and bringing through the karmic process suffering upon yourself is badly lived. You're not very good at being alive. You're rubbish at it. Whereas a person who's good at being alive, who's got the hang of what it means to live life properly, doesn't hurt others, doesn't bring suffering upon themselves. So in a sense, that's how I think about karma, and how I find it useful is not so much to worry about this dilemma about what comes first, whether the moral standard comes first and then karma, because it's not, in a traditional Buddhist sense, operated by an external judge or a god. It's part of the order of things. It's not run by a system of people that judge you and hand out punishment or hand out reward or retribution. Rather, if you do that, it will lead naturally almost. It's like almost like an ethical aspect is woven into the very fabric of the universe. And so, if you carry out certain kinds of deeds, you are planting seeds that will come to fruition. If you carry out other kinds of action, you're planting different kinds of seed, but nonetheless, the fruition will come. And to use a very hackneyed image, you will reap what you sow. So in a sense, whether we choose to use various Western ethical constructs to make sense of that may or may not be helpful in characterizing Buddhist ethics, but fundamentally, actions that cause certain kinds of results we call good. Actions that lead other kinds of results we call bad. And Buddhists believe that we can witness that over many lifetimes if we reach a sufficiently high level of meditative insight, like stream entry. But I hope the idea of skillful and unskillful, rather than good or bad or good and evil, gives more of a sense that what we're trying to move towards is a well-crafted life. Being good at living involves not being ignorant, being sensible enough to realize that the interests of others and the interests of ourselves are identical. If we treat others well, it goes best for us. And if we treat others badly, it goes badly for them and badly for us. So the idea of my personal self-interest versus the interests of others is kind of absent or hostile to Buddhist ethics that says it's not about your suffering or my suffering, and of course there's the not self teaching. It's about how do we reduce suffering? How do we minimize the amount of suffering? My suffering, your suffering, the whole mess of it. How do we dampen it down? How do we pull away from suffering towards something else, something more blissful and pleasant and not drenched in misery quite as heavily? Okay.